A 25-year-old woman married a 75-year-old man for his inheritance, but she never imagined the lesson that awaited her. But before that, consider subscribing to the channel so we can keep sharing amazing stories. Emily was a young woman of 25, full of ambition and determination. She had overcome many challenges in her life and longed for a way out of the financial insecurity that had followed her since childhood. She lived in a small apartment in New York City, worked hard to make ends meet, and dreamed of a life of wealth and security. Despite her modest circumstances, Emily was smart and resourceful, always looking for an opportunity that could bring her the better life she desired. Harry, on the other hand, was a 75-year-old man who had lived a life full of success and wealth. He owned an impressive historic villa on the outskirts of San Francisco, surrounded by extensive grounds. The villa was an inheritance from his ancestors and represented generations of wealth and prestige. However, Harry was alone. His wife had passed away years ago, and his children had long scattered, seeking their own paths in life, leaving the old man behind. Loneliness had deeply embedded itself in his heart, and despite his wealth, he often felt abandoned and melancholic. Harry's days were marked by monotony, and he spent his time mostly walking through his magnificent garden, lined with old trees and meticulously maintained flower beds. His only company consisted of the staff who kept the estate in order and occasional visits from old friends, which became less frequent over time. Harry was a man of noble appearance, with gray hair and a face marked by the years, but still exuding dignity and strength. Emily and Harry's paths eventually crossed at a charity ball held in one of San Francisco's grand halls. Emily, invited by a friend, seized the chance to attend such an event, hoping to make new connections and realize her dreams. Harry was there to make his annual donation, a tradition that gave him a sense of fulfillment despite his loneliness. Amidst the glamour and elegance of the event, they noticed each other for the first time, and a subtle spark ignited. This spark would be the beginning of a story that would change both of them in ways neither could have anticipated. Emily saw in Harry an opportunity that surpassed her wildest dreams, while Harry saw in Emily the chance to fill the void in his life. What began as a marriage of convenience soon held much deeper emotions and unexpected lessons. Emily, exhausted from the constant financial insecurity and limited opportunities of her modest existence, yearned for a life of wealth and security. Every morning, she woke up in her small New York City apartment, ready to face another long day at her monotonous office job. Her hopes and dreams seemed increasingly out of reach as she struggled through her daily grind, earning just enough to get by. Her friends and acquaintances led similar lives, trapped in a cycle of work and frustration with no prospect of change. Emily saw the years stretching out before her, monotonous and uneventful, and felt trapped in a whirlpool of hopelessness and disappointment. The thought that there must be more to life than this endless struggle burned in her heart and drove her to seek a solution. When she met Harry at the charity ball and learned more about his life, Emily immediately recognized the opportunity before her. She learned about his substantial wealth, numerous properties, and lonely life in the grand villa. Harry, a man seemingly waiting for the right person to care for him, appeared to be the answer to her prayers. Emily began to consider her options. She saw Harry as a means to escape her humble existence and lead a life of luxury and comfort. The idea of never having to work again and not worrying about money was tempting and very real. The plan to court and marry Harry, ultimately becoming his heir, took shape in her mind. She knew she was clever and persuasive enough to convince him she was the right choice. Making this decision was not easy for Emily, as she had to confront the moral implications of her scheme. However, the prospect of a worry-free life, free from the financial constraints that had burdened her for so long, outweighed her doubts. In Harry, she saw the chance she needed to achieve her dreams and lead a better life. With a firm resolve and a clear goal in mind, Emily began to plan her steps carefully. She knew she had to gain Harry's trust to execute her plans. The coming months would demand everything from her, but Emily was ready to give it her all to secure her future. Emily had dressed up elegantly for the evening. The sophisticated atmosphere of the charity event, held in a grand hall in the heart of San Francisco, was overwhelming. Glittering chandeliers cast warm light on the refined guests engaged in conversation in their chic evening attire. It was a world Emily knew only from movies, and she felt somewhat out of place. She had received the invitation from a wealthy friend, which she couldn't refuse. Emily knew such events offered opportunities she couldn't afford to miss. Standing nervously in a corner of the room, clutching her champagne glass, her eyes fell on Harry. Harry, in his impeccably tailored suit, moved through the room with a dignity acquired through years of success and experience. He noticed Emily immediately. Her youth and beauty stood out, and her apparent innocence and awkwardness in this setting attracted him. For a moment he hesitated, then decided to approach her. "Excuse me, miss," Harry said with a friendly smile as he approached. "I couldn't help but notice your grace. May I join you?" Emily, surprised and a little overwhelmed by the attention of the elegant older man, nodded and smiled shyly. "Of course, please do," she replied, trying to hide her nervousness. The two began a conversation that started politely and superficially, but soon deepened. Harry spoke of his passion for art and culture, and Emily listened attentively, impressed by his knowledge and life experience. She told him about her work and dreams, and Harry found her honesty refreshing. The longer they talked, the more Harry felt drawn to Emily. Her presence was like a fresh breeze in his often lonely life. Emily, noticing Harry's interest, subtly intensified her charm offensive. She laughed at his jokes and showed genuine interest in his stories. As the evening progressed and the event neared its end, Harry and Emily exchanged contact information. Harry promised to see her again soon, and Emily watched him walk away through the crowd, her heart pounding with excitement and anticipation. This first, unexpected encounter was to be the beginning of something much greater than Emily could have ever imagined. Emily sat in her small New York City apartment, unable to stop thinking about the charming Harry she'd met at the charity event. Determined to change her circumstances, she saw Harry as a unique opportunity to realize her dreams. But this opportunity came with moral Emily's. Emily knew Harry was a wealthy man whose fortune could provide the life she had always dreamed of. She began to formulate a plan to court and eventually marry Harry, with the goal of becoming his heir and securing her financial future. To achieve this, she had to convince Harry that her feelings for him were genuine. The plan required patience and skill. Emily decided to gain Harry's trust by presenting herself as an understanding, loving companion. She would show genuine interest in his interests in life, listen to his stories, and make him feel appreciated and loved once again. As she meticulously outlined her plan, Emily grappled with her moral concerns. She knew she was exploiting Harry, and the thought caused her discomfort. But the prospect of drastically improving her life was too tempting to let go. She promised herself that once she became Harry's heir, she would honorably use his wealth to do good. Emily made the decision to put her plan into action. She began meeting Harry regularly, spending time with him at his magnificent villa and learning about his daily routines and preferences. She grew to appreciate his stories from the past and showed genuine interest in his experiences. All the while, she ensured she went the extra mile to show him how much she respected and appreciated him. While playing her role, Emily's internal conflict grew. She knew she was deceiving Harry, but her determination to achieve her goals outweighed her doubts. She couldn't imagine continuing to live in her current situation and was willing to bear the moral cost of her plan. Emily was determined to see it through to the end, resolute that her future lay in wealth and security. Harry was enchanted by Emily. He found in her a refreshing companion who filled his lonely days with youth and energy. Harry began to court Emily with his generosity, which only made her plan easier. Emily accepted the gifts with a smile so genuine that even she sometimes believed it might reflect true affection. But it wasn't just the gifts Harry had to offer. He invited Emily on luxurious trips to show her the world. They flew in his private jet to Paris, where they stayed in one of the city's finest hotels. Harry led her through the charming streets of Montmartre, showed her the Eiffel Tower at night, and arranged romantic dinners in the best restaurants. In Italy, they enjoyed the beauty of the Napa Valley. Harry rented a yacht, where they admired the azure sea and breathtaking coastal scenery. In Charleston, they marveled at Renaissance artworks and strolled through the city's historic gardens. Each trip was carefully planned to offer Emily the most beautiful and impressive experiences. Emily played her role perfectly. She always showed enthusiasm and gratitude for Harry's generosity, laughed at his stories, and held his hand as if they were a loving couple. She understood the importance of making Harry feel his affection was reciprocated. Her looks and touches were carefully calculated to make him believe she was truly taken with him. As these travels and shared experiences continued, Harry's affection for Emily grew. He saw in her the chance to overcome his loneliness and experience love and joy once more. For Harry, Emily was like a ray of light brightening his dark days. He began to make plans for their future together, unaware that Emily had a different plan in mind. Emily, meanwhile, continued to struggle with her inner conflict. Although she had initially resolved to keep her emotions out of the equation, she sometimes found herself appreciating Harry's honest affection and efforts. Yet, whenever doubts arose, she reminded herself of her original goal and why she had embarked on this path. Her life was now far removed from the modest existence she had previously led, and she was determined to maintain this new lifestyle at any cost. After just a few months of intense affection and shared experiences that made Harry feel as if he had rediscovered his lost youth, he felt that Emily was the woman who should accompany him for the rest of his life. Overwhelmed by her beauty, charm, and apparent devotion, he didn't want to waste any more time. Harry decided to propose to Emily and planned this important moment with the utmost care. He arranged a weekend at a luxurious chalet in the Bavarian Alps, far from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. The chalet, surrounded by snow-capped peaks and dense forests, offered breathtaking views and a quiet, romantic atmosphere. On the evening of the proposal, Harry pulled out all the stops. He had a private chef prepare an exquisite dinner of their favorite dishes. The table was adorned with white roses and candles. The fireplace cast a warm, flickering light in the room, and soft classical music played in the background. Harry, elegant in a bespoke suit, could barely conceal his nervousness. He had the diamond ring, a family heirloom, carefully hidden in the inside pocket of his jacket. Emily, sitting before him in a stunning evening gown, seemed completely unruffled, but inwardly she was just as excited, knowing that this moment would change her life. After the main course and before dessert was served, Harry stood up and walked over to Emily. He knelt before her, opened the small black velvet box, and held up the sparkling ring. The flames of the fireplace reflected in the facets of the diamond, giving the moment an almost magical quality. "Emily," Harry began, his voice trembling with emotion, "since the moment I met you, you have filled my life with joy and light. You have shown me that there is still so much to experience, and I can't imagine my life without you. Will you be my wife and spend the rest of our days together with me?" Emily, though internally prepared, played her part perfectly. Her eyes filled with tears, and she placed a hand on her chest, as if deeply moved by Harry's words. She let a moment of suspense pass before answering with a radiant smile and a trembling voice, "Yes, Harry, I will. I love you." The moment was perfectly captured. Harry carefully slid the ring onto Emily's finger and pulled her into a loving embrace. The magic of the moment filled the room, and Harry could hardly believe his luck. They spent the rest of the evening entwined before the fireplace, talking about their future plans. Harry painted a future in bright colors, spoke of more travels, shared projects, and a life full of love and joy. Emily smiled and listened attentively, while inwardly she contemplated the next steps of her plan. She had achieved what she had set out to do, and was determined to maintain this new lifestyle at any cost. Gaining Harry's affection and trust was the first step on her path to a life of wealth and security. Emily quickly found herself in her new role as Harry's wife and mistress of the magnificent villa. Her life was now marked by a luxury she had never imagined before. Days began with breakfasts on the sun-drenched terrace, followed by shopping trips to the most exclusive boutiques in the city, and ended with elegant dinners featuring fine wines and delicious dishes. The villa itself was a dream of marble and crystal, with high ceilings, grand chandeliers, and antique furniture that told stories of past generations. Emily enjoyed walks through the expansive gardens, adorned with elaborate flower beds and bubbling fountains. Every room in the villa seemed to come from a fairy tale, and she felt like a princess in her own kingdom. But alongside the glamour and glitz of her new life, Emily also had to deal with the skepticism of Harry's staff and family. The household staff, who had worked for Harry for years, treated her with a mix of politeness and distrust. They had seen many people come into Harry's life over the years, but never had he let anyone in so quickly. Particularly Mrs. Miller had served Harry for decades and saw herself as the protector of his wealth and health. Although she treated Emily respectfully, Emily could sense the underlying doubt in her eyes. Mrs. Miller had a knack for reading people, and something about Emily made her wary. Harry's distant relatives, who seldom visited, were also surprised and not always pleased by the new marriage. His nieces and nephews especially, who lived in hopes of an inheritance, often showed their disapproval through cool politeness and pointed remarks. They tested Emily at every meeting, probing her past and her intentions, trying to find weaknesses in her story. Emily remained steadfast. She knew she had to prove herself in her new position. She met skepticism with kindness and grace, reached out to the staff, and worked to establish her place within the family. She learned the likes and dislikes of each person, showed genuine interest in their stories, and tried to earn the trust of Harry's inner circle. Though she outwardly displayed strength and confidence, Emily struggled internally with the constant scrutiny and unspoken accusations. The luxurious facade of her new life had its shadows, which she hadn't anticipated. But Emily was determined to assert her place in this new world, regardless of the obstacles in her path. One morning, just a few months after the wedding, Emily noticed that Harry looked unusually pale and weak. What started as a mild discomfort quickly developed into a serious illness. Harry complained of severe pain and difficulty breathing, and Emily, playing the role of the concerned wife, immediately called the doctor. The doctor, an old family friend, examined Harry thoroughly and determined that his condition was serious. Harry was taken to the hospital, where further tests revealed that he had a severe heart condition that urgently needed treatment. Despite the doctor's best efforts, Harry's condition deteriorated rapidly. Emily, sitting by Harry's hospital bed, outwardly appeared desperate and worried. Internally, however, her thoughts began to turn toward the future. She knew Harry didn't have long to live and started planning her next steps. She needed to ensure she would inherit his assets and take over his properties. Emily used the time in the hospital to review Harry's finances and will. She contacted his lawyers and made sure all legal matters were settled in her favor. She did all this discreetly, ensuring no one suspected anything. She presented herself as the grieving but determined wife who wanted the best for her sick husband. As Harry's condition worsened, Emily discreetly prepared for her new lifestyle. She began looking at exclusive real estate and investment opportunities she could use after Harry's death. She planned trips and new projects, always with the thought that she would soon be free and financially secure. Yet, despite her cool calculations and plans, Emily sometimes felt a pang of guilt. Harry had always treated her well, and his honest affection for her was evident. She quickly dismissed these thoughts by focusing on her goals. Emily knew she had to persevere to achieve the life she had always dreamed of. Harry's family and the household staff watched the situation with growing concern and suspicion. They saw how Emily increasingly took control of Harry's affairs and feared the worst. Yet no one dared openly oppose Emily, as she was Harry's lawful wife, and he seemed to need her in his final days. As Harry's condition continued to decline, Emily internally prepared herself to soon be the heir to a large fortune. She knew she had to proceed cautiously to successfully implement her plans, and patiently waited for the moment when she could take her future into her own hands. One evening, while Harry slept deeply and exhausted from his illness, Emily wandered through the grand villa. The silence of the house was only interrupted by the occasional creaking of old floorboards. Emily felt restless, her thoughts circling around the uncertain future. She decided to search Harry's study for more documents that could secure her plans. The study was a room full of history. Shelves of dark wood filled with books testified to Harry's extensive knowledge and numerous interests. A massive mahogany desk dominated the room, covered with old photos, letters, and mementos. Emily opened one of the drawers and found a worn, leather-bound journal inside. Curious, she opened the first page. The date was decades old, and the handwriting was careful and clear. Harry had recorded his thoughts and experiences with remarkable openness and depth. Emily began to read, initially intending to learn more about his finances and networks, but soon she was captivated by the personal stories. The early entries told of Harry's youth, his dreams, and his determination to achieve something great. Emily learned about his studies, the challenges he overcame, and the first successes that shaped him. But it was the more intimate confessions that truly moved her. Harry wrote about his first great love, a young woman named Sophie, whose loss deeply affected and forever changed him. He described moments of joy and happiness, but also times of doubt and despair. Emily read about painful decisions he had to make, friendships that broke apart, and betrayals that made him more cautious and reserved. These experiences had shaped a man who appeared strong and unyielding on the outside, but was internally marked by many scars. Particularly touching were the passages about his late wife, Lucy. Harry's love for her was evident in every line. He wrote about their first meeting, their time together, and the heavy loss he never fully overcame. Emily could almost see the tears in his eyes as he expressed his regret about not spending more time with her, and his guilt for often prioritizing work over private life. As she continued reading, Emily felt an unexpected wave of compassion. Harry's words revealed a side of him she had never known. He was not just the rich, powerful man she was exploiting, but a person who had suffered and loved, made mistakes, and paid for them. This realization struck her deeply. Emily sat in the heavy leather armchair by the fireplace, holding the journal tightly. The flames cast flickering shadows on the walls as she pondered Harry's life. The stories he had shared made her see her own actions in a new light. She felt a connection to him she hadn't expected. It was as if, through his words, she discovered a part of herself. This discovery led Emily to question her own motives. For the first time since the start of her plan, she doubted her decision. Harry was not just a means to an end, but a person deserving of genuine compassion and respect. She knew she had to decide how to handle this new understanding. The night passed, and as the first light of morning streamed through the windows, Emily felt changed. She had gained deep insight into Harry's soul, and this realization would shape her future decisions. Emily closed the journal and carefully placed it back in the drawer. She knew she now had an important decision to make, not just for herself, but also for Harry. As Harry's illness progressed, Emily found herself more and more at his bedside. She cared for him with a dedication that surprised even herself. Initially, she had played the role of the dutiful wife to maintain appearances and secure her plans. But the more time she spent with Harry, the stronger her genuine feelings for him grew. Harry's condition continued to deteriorate, and Emily was often the only one providing him with comfort and support. She helped him eat, read to him, and held his hand when the pain became too intense. Every gesture, every touch she had initially performed with calculated detachment, was now accompanied by real feelings of care and affection. One night when Harry was particularly weak, he told Emily stories from his youth, about adventures and lost dreams. He spoke with a candor that deeply moved Emily. She realized that Harry was not just a means to an end, but a person with a rich inner life and genuine feelings. This realization hit her hard and led her to question her own motives. As she cared for him, Emily observed how Harry's eyes still sparkled with vitality and wisdom, despite his physical frailty. She began to appreciate the way he maintained his humor and dignity, despite his illness. These moments of shared laughter and deep conversations made Emily realize that she truly loved Harry. The more time she spent with him, the harder it became for Emily to continue with her original plans. She felt torn between her initial intentions and the genuine feelings developing in her heart. The sight of Harry's suffering, combined with the warmth and affection she felt for him, led to a deep inner conflict. Emily began to think about the consequences of her actions. She wondered if she could really betray a man who meant so much to her. The affection she developed for Harry was genuine, and she couldn't bear the thought of hurting him. These emotional upheavals caused Emily to start reordering her priorities and rethinking her future plans. In the quiet moments of the night, when Harry slept and only the soft ticking of the clock could be heard in the room, Emily reflected on her decisions. She felt herself changing, realizing that love and compassion for Harry were making her a better person. This transformation was unexpected, but she was ready to accept these new feelings and adjust her plans accordingly. The nights became Emily's greatest challenge. As she sat by Harry's bed, holding his tired hand, she fought against the tears and dark thoughts that haunted her. Her plan, which had once seemed so clear and logical, now appeared heartless and cruel. She repeatedly asked herself if she was really capable of betraying a man who had shown her so much trust and affection. One evening, after Harry had fallen asleep, Emily went out into the villa's garden. The cold night air and the silence helped her clear her mind. She sat on a stone bench and looked up at the stars. In these moments of solitude, she questioned what kind of person she truly wanted to be. Her thoughts kept returning to Harry and the feelings she had developed for him. "Can I really go through with this?" she asked aloud. The stars did not answer, but the silence was enough of a response. Emily knew deep down that she wanted to change. The love she felt for Harry was real, and she couldn't bear the thought of hurting him. Yet she also knew it would be hard to abandon her original plan. She had invested so much time and energy, and the temptation to choose an easy life of wealth was still strong. The inner struggle tore at her. Some days she felt determined to accept her feelings and change herself. She wanted to show Harry that her love was real, that she could be a better person. On other days, however, doubts and the fear of an uncertain future without financial security overwhelmed her. Emily began to question her actions. She spent hours thinking about her past and the decisions that had brought her to this point. Memories of her humble childhood and the constant struggle to survive weighed heavily on her. She did not want to return to that insecurity, but also did not want to be the person who betrayed Harry. Her thoughts were a constant back and forth, a constant struggle between reason and heart. She felt trapped in a web of her own choices and unexpected feelings. The days passed, and Emily felt the pressure mounting. She had to make a decision, but each option seemed painful and difficult. In these quiet moments of reflection and self-doubt, Emily began to realize the true meaning of love and sacrifice. Her transformation was underway, and although the path ahead was uncertain, she knew she could not remain the same person. The inner struggle would shape her, but it would also make her the person she truly wanted to be. Harry's condition continued to deteriorate, and it became clear that he didn't have much time left. One evening, when he was particularly weak, he asked Emily to sit by his bed. His eyes, which still held a spark of life and intelligence despite his illness, sought hers. Emily sensed that he had something important to say, and took his hand. "Emily," Harry began, his voice soft but firm, "there is something I have wanted to tell you for a long time." He paused to catch his breath, and Emily felt her heart racing. "I have known about your initial intentions for some time." Emily froze. Her thoughts raced, and she wanted to say something, but Harry raised his hand slightly to calm her. "Please let me finish," he said gently. "I knew you married me initially for my money. I'm not a foolish man, and there were enough clues that made it clear to me." Emily felt tears welling up in her eyes. She wanted to justify herself, but Harry's next words stopped her. "But I fell in love with you anyway," he continued. "I hoped that as you got to know me, you might develop real feelings for me. And I've seen how you have changed." His words hit Emily deeply. She had no idea that Harry had known all along, and still chose to trust her. "I wanted to believe that love could grow in you as it did in me," Harry said, with a softness that broke Emily's heart. "And I think I was not entirely wrong." Emily could no longer hold back her tears. She rested her head on Harry's chest and sobbed quietly. "I'm so sorry, Harry," she whispered through her tears. "I really have developed feelings for you. I never wanted to hurt you." Harry gently stroked her head and said, "I know, Emily. I have seen how you cared for me, how you changed. And that is all I could have wished for. The time we had was precious to me." Emily lifted her head and looked into Harry's eyes. She saw no reproach there, only love and understanding. "Thank you for telling me this," she said quietly. "I know now what I must do." Harry smiled weakly and nodded. "You are stronger and better than you think, Emily. Trust your heart." These words would stay with Emily for a long time, and she knew she would not disappoint Harry's trust and love. In the days following Harry's heartfelt confession, Emily felt a new bond with him. She spent every waking minute by his side, lovingly caring for him and trying to provide comfort and strength. Harry's health continued to decline, and Emily knew they didn't have much time left together. One evening, as the twilight cast a soft orange glow over the room, Harry asked Emily to listen to him one last time. "Emily, I have something very important to tell you," he began, his voice weak but clear. "It concerns my fortune and your future." Emily, already fearing this might be a farewell conversation, nodded silently and gently squeezed his hand. Harry took a deep breath and continued. "I have made a decision that may surprise you. My entire fortune, all my assets, will not be directly inherited by you." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She felt a wave of fear and confusion wash over her. "What do you mean, Harry?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. Harry looked at her with sad but determined eyes. "I have allocated my fortune to a foundation I quietly established many years ago. This foundation is dedicated to charitable causes, supporting orphanages, hospitals, and educational institutions in needy regions." Emily was speechless. Her mind was a whirl of thoughts and emotions. "But what does this mean for me?" she finally managed to ask. Harry squeezed her hand tighter. "It means you will not inherit the money, Emily. But it also means you have the opportunity to do something great. This foundation needs someone to lead it, someone I trust and who shares the same values." Emily could not hold back her tears. The revelation struck her harder than any other, yet she felt a strange sense of relief. "You want me to lead the foundation?" she asked, her voice a whisper. Harry weakly nodded. "Yes, Emily. I believe you have the strength and the heart to do this. You have changed, and I trust that you will do the right thing. This is my final gift to you, the opportunity to live a life that truly matters." Emily was deeply moved by Harry's trust and his vision for the foundation. The revelation of his plans had touched her in a way she hadn't thought possible. She felt a new determination forming within her, one born not of self-interest, but of genuine affection and respect for Harry and his values. The next morning, before the first rays of sunlight streamed through the windows, Emily sat beside Harry's bed. She held his hand and spoke in a gentle yet firm voice. "Harry, I have thought a lot about your words. They have touched me deeply. I want to stay by your side and take care of you as long as needed. And I want to learn more about the foundation so I can continue your work in your spirit." Harry's eyes filled with tears and he smiled weakly. "Thank you, Emily. That means more to me than you can imagine. The foundation has always been a project close to my heart, and I am glad you are willing to take on this task." In the following weeks, Emily spent every free minute caring for Harry and learning from him. She read the Foundation's documents and records, spoke with the people already involved, and began to understand how much heart Harry had put into this project. She learned the stories of the people the Foundation had helped and realized the deep significance and meaning of her new task. Every evening, she sat by Harry's bed, telling him about her progress and her plans for the Foundation's future. Harry listened, often with closed eyes and a faint smile on his lips. It seemed that knowing his life's work was in good hands brought him peace and comfort. Emily felt herself changing. Her initial plans and motives had faded, replaced by a genuine commitment and deep love for Harry. She knew she had a responsibility not just to herself, but also to Harry's legacy and the many people the Foundation would help. The last days with Harry were filled with a quiet but profound connection. Emily held his hand, talked to him about her plans and dreams, and promised she would continue his work with all her heart. Harry's condition continued to deteriorate, but he seemed peaceful and content, knowing Emily was by his side and taking care of what mattered most to him. When Harry finally closed his eyes for the last time, Emily was by his side. She felt a mix of deep sorrow and unwavering determination. She had taken on a task and a responsibility that had forever changed her life. Emily knew she would honor Harry's legacy and carry on his vision with all her might. After Harry's death, Emily found herself in a world of grief and responsibility. The villa, once filled with Harry's presence and laughter, was now quiet and empty. But amidst this silence, Emily felt a new resolve, a promise she had made to Harry to fulfill. She knew she had to continue his foundation and preserve his legacy. Emily delved deeply into the work of the Foundation. She met with the current staff, learned their stories and motivations, and actively participated in the projects. She visited the orphanages the Foundation supported, spoke with the doctors in the hospitals, and saw firsthand how Harry's vision had touched the lives of so many people. The initial challenges were significant. Many doubted Emily's abilities and dedication, but her determination and genuine commitment soon convinced everyone that she was the right person to carry on Harry's work. Emily quickly learned to make decisions, manage budgets, and initiate new projects. As she became more involved in the work, Emily found a new sense of purpose in her life. The fulfillment she felt in helping others was unlike anything she had known before. Every successful initiative, every happy child, and every healed patient gave her the feeling that she was on the right path. The Foundation became not only her duty, but also her passion. Emily built new partnerships, expanded the Foundation's reach, and ensured that Harry's values and ideals were alive in every aspect of the work. She spoke at conferences, wrote articles, and tirelessly advocated for the Foundation's goals. Her energy and dedication inspired others, and soon the Foundation grew beyond its original boundaries. During this time, Emily also found inner peace. She realized that her transformation, which had begun with Harry, was now complete. She was no longer the woman who only thought about wealth and security. She had found a new purpose that made her life meaningful and fulfilling. Harry's legacy lived on in every action Emily took for the foundation. She knew he would be proud of her, and this knowledge gave her the strength to continue. Emily promised herself she would never forget what Harry had taught her about love, trust, and the true nature of giving. With each day she invested in the foundation, Emily solidified Harry's legacy while creating her own. She knew she had built something significant that would outlast her, and this realization filled her with deep gratitude and satisfaction. On a mild spring evening, Emily sat on the veranda of the villa she once shared with Harry. The gardens, once nurtured under his loving care, were now in full bloom, reflecting the beauty and peace she had found in her own life. As the sun slowly set behind the hills and the birds sang their last song of the day, Emily reflected on the past few years. She remembered the young, ambitious woman she once was, driven by the desire for wealth and security. That Emily seemed so foreign to her now, almost like another person. The experiences she had gone through with Harry's love and the Foundation's legacy had profoundly changed her. She had learned that true value was not found in material wealth, but in serving others and making a positive impact. The Foundation she now led was a living testament to Harry's generosity and vision. It had provided countless children with a home, given the sick the care they needed, and offered many people the chance for education and a better life. Emily knew this was the true wealth Harry had left her. It wasn't the money, but the opportunity to make a difference and improve the lives of others. Emily closed her eyes and let the peaceful silence wash over her. She thought of Harry and the deep conversations they had shared. He had shown her that love and compassion were the true forces in life. He had taught her that it was never too late to change, and that everyone had the power to do good, regardless of their past. As the stars appeared in the sky, Emily felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had found a new sense of purpose in her life, and that was the greatest gift Harry could have given her. Working with the Foundation had not only allowed her to grow as a person, but also shown her that she had the power to create meaningful and lasting change. Emily stood up and looked at the sky. "Thank you, Harry," she whispered softly. "Thank you for showing me what truly matters." She knew his love and teachings would always be a part of her, and she was determined to continue honoring and expanding his legacy. With one last look at the blooming gardens, Emily went into the house, ready for the challenges and joys that lay ahead. She felt fulfilled and confident that she had found her path, one marked by love, compassion, and the true value of giving. And she knew Harry would be proud of her for carrying on his legacy and finding her own place in the world.